Hello shooters, I'm Dr. Tactical, and as many of you may know, I am quite the lever action fanboy. I love lever actions, and I really love a good classic firearm. I love them. I love the lines, I love the feel of the wood, and just the whole setup. However, my moniker is not Dr. Pure and Classical. My moniker is Dr. Tactical. So when you take something like this and make it even more functional, you've got my undivided attention. And when Smith Wesson came out with this 1854 in 44 Magnum, and came out with it in 44 Magnum only, might I add, I got one immediately. Now, this was a tactical version of this at the time. Notice you've got M-lock cut into this at the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock position. You also have a Picatinny rail on the top of it. So I was psyched. And by the way, I have to say, I love this gun. This gun shoots wonderfully. I did a video on it a while ago. I had a concern about this wiggling trigger because not all guns do that. But it's a non-issue, and it's just something that the trigger does. And I noted that. Anyway, fell in love with that. Then, at a gun shop one day, and I came across the Citadel. Now, the Citadel 44 Magnum also, lever action, but this thing's got a huge handguard with M-lock all over the place, as well as a Picatinny rail on the top, and I had to have that. This thing also shoots wonderfully. I forgot the barrel length differences. Anyway, this is shorter, but really like this. And I like the tacticalness of it. So when I went to the gun shop and saw they had a Smith Wesson 18, this is the 1854 Stealth Hunter. So this is now this, but even more tactical. It's actually a cross between, I'd say, these two guns. And if you look, it's got a really nice handguard, M-lock on the sides, M-lock on the bottom. It's just vented very nicely to be cool. It's got a really nice rail on the top of it. Just very nicely set up. So if I were to fix this gun up on my own, this is pretty much what I would do to it. I think I may still change out the stock and put something a little more fun back here. And if I do, I'll share that with you guys. So the question wasn't whether or not I was going to get this gun. The question was, did I want this gun in 44 Magnum like these two are, or did I want to get it in 357? Now, I already owned this. This is a Henry Big Boy X. This is in 357. This thing shoots amazingly. And it also has M-lock on the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position. It has a rail on the bottom, and it's got a Picatinny rail on the top. So this is tactical, much in the same way that this is. Not in the way that this or this is, though. But nonetheless, it's still really a great shooter and much more tactical, I would say, than this thing. All right, so the question for me at the time was, what do I do? Should I go with 357? Should I go with 44? Now, you guys are at an advantage because you saw the thumbnail for this, so you already know this is a 357. But I want to share with you my thought process and why I went with a 357 over a 44, because a lot of people at the gun shop who I talked to were agonizing over the exact same thing. And I came back a couple times. I didn't just pull the trigger, which is not normal for me, because I was painfully going back and forth. And don't think I didn't think about just getting both. I've made that, well, I was going to say mistake. It's not really a mistake, but I've made that choice before. But I did not do that. I went with the 357, and I'll tell you why. Give me a sec, because I'm Dr. Tactical, and the doctor will see you now. Welcome back to the channel, and those of you who are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please consider hitting that like button. It shows other people that somebody liked this episode, and they may tune in and watch it too. Also, by all means, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. It greatly helps the channel in many ways, but it also helps you because it allows you to then hit that notification bell, which will let you know when more highly entertaining and educational content like this becomes available. All right, so I'm going to walk you guys through my thought process here, because the first thing I did when I got home after realizing that I had a decision to make is I went online and I started looking into 357 versus 44. And like I said, I have at that point I already had two 44 lever actions and one 357 lever action. So, and I loved both, and they both shoot great. So the question is, which one did I want? So I started just looking, sort of trying to nitpick. And when you go online and start looking it up, you start finding things like, advantages of 357 over 44. You've got controllability, shootability. It's easier to stay on target, less recoil, faster follow-up shots. These are all true for revolvers, for handguns. I do not find these to be necessarily true with lever actions. I have to tell you that when I'm shooting a 44 out of a lever action, it's insanely easy to control. So these preferences, absolutely, I find them to hold true when it comes to revolvers or handguns. But when it comes to a 16-inch barrel length or greater, I don't, especially like a 7-pound gun, I don't think that it really comes into play as much. A 44 really does not. It's just not as intimidating as it is in a handgun. All right, versatility, that's one that, obviously 357, you can also shoot 38 special. 44 Magnum, you can shoot 44 special, but it's harder to find, and it's also a lot more expensive. So capacity is one that I kept finding on the internet where they kept saying, well, the capacity is, the smaller the bullet is, the more you can fit into the tube. This is true, but currently right now, the 1854, whether you get it in 44, 45 Colt, or 357, the tubes are all rated for holding 8 rounds. So you're not really getting the capacity benefit with this particular firearm. So that was something I was really trying to find a reason to get one over the other. And so far, I already know 44, I'm going to win out in power. 44 is going to be more powerful than the 357. And it's going to be, I would say, in my hands, I find them equally controllable, relatively equal with recoil. I really just don't find there to be a big difference, and they're both actually quite mild. Wear and tear on the internal components and the optics. That is a concern. This is a problem I've never, ever, ever had to deal with. I've never worn out a gun. And I shoot a lot, but I also have a lot of guns and I rotate a lot. But all my guns that I love get a lot of use. And I'm trying to think, I really can't think of a situation. There was a shotgun that I had a really, an M4 that I had a really crappy optic on, and that didn't work well, but it was a crappy optic. I was just playing around. But overall, I haven't really had a gun damage an optic or a light or a laser. Not that I'm necessarily planning on putting all that, but it is tactical, and who knows, I could put some type of gizmo on this thing, I don't know. So that is something to keep in mind. A 44 is going to beat up the gun and equipment that you put on it a little bit more. So there you go, that translates. Cost. 44 is definitely more expensive than 357 and less easy to get a hold of. I find that I can find 357 or 38 special pretty much always. I've never had a problem getting it. I can usually get it at pretty reasonable costs. I can make it. That goes for 44 too, of course, but that's a different animal. But as far as just getting factory rounds, 357 beats out 44. So 44 wins in power. 357's winning now in cost and in accessibility to the ammo, and as far as beating up the gun and add-ons that you put on it. Now, there's a lot that I saw about risks of over-penetration, because a lot of it depends on what you're going to use this gun for. Are you using it for hunting? Are you using it for self-defense? Are you using it for plinking? 357 pretty much fits all those categories up to, I guess, medium-sized game. Now, I will have to say, if I was going, and I'm not a hunter, I don't hunt, but if I were going for like a bear, I don't think that this in a 44 is going to be my choice. More likely, where do I have, here we go. That would be my 45-70 here. So this bad boy, as you all saw in Jurassic Park, I'm sure, took out a T-Rex. So this would be my choice for big size game. So 44 is not really the round I would reach for. So as far as over penetration on a self-defense situation, so here's the thing that I don't accept, because I see that written, that 44 has more power. However, you can control what you put in there, especially if you make your own rounds. But there are hot loads and there are warm loads and there are cool loads. So, I found that when I got the mountain gun. In fact, a lot of people commented on my choice of ammo, which by the way was just the only ammo I got hold of at the time. That Green Mountain ammo, I think it was a very slow 44 Magnum. And it shot extremely gently out of that, out of my new mountain gun, the 629 mountain gun. And, so you have to consider the fact that you can put super high pressured rounds in a 44 Magnum. And yes, you can go through, you can penetrate really hard, but you also can tone it down and put gentler rounds in there. So it is a titratable round, if you will. Much the same is the case of 357. 357, when you go down to 38 special, there's also 38, plus P. There's all kinds of, a variety that you can put in the 357. But you have the ability to take the 44 and go further than you can go with the 357. So there's that. But that's a plus. But I don't, when people say, well, no, you don't want that, it's just too serious of a round. Well, it depends what you put in. Although it is harder to get some of the, more tailored rounds that you may be looking for, unless you're making them yourself. Okay, so here's what made my decision for me. What made my decision for me is every time I take a lever action with me to the range, I take a handgun, a revolver with me that matches it caliber-wise. And I have a ton of 357s, and I currently have 144, and that is my, that's the mountain gun, my Lipsy's exclusive, which, by the way, I love. I love, love, love that gun. However, that's not a gun I would consider carrying. And I know some people have come on and called me all kinds of names and questioned my masculinity because of my lack of desire to carry that gun. Now, I would take that gun with me places, and I would, or carry it outside the waistband if I ever went any place that I carried a gun outside the waistband besides competitions. But as a rule, I've got a variety of 357s that, from J frames to N frames now, and everything in between. So I like having the ability to carry this along with a revolver of my choice. So that, my friends, is why it's most likely that it's why I chose to go with the 357. And all the things I said at the beginning that I said were moot points when we talked about the control, the shootability, the less recoil. And I said none of those mattered with the rifle, because the rifle really mitigated all those things. However, none of those things are mitigated when it comes to the handgun that I carry. And since I want to carry this with a handgun that's going to match it, they do come into play, even though they're not really directly affecting the rifle. Does that make sense to you? So anyway, this is what I have. I'm happy with it. There's a small chance I could still go back and get the 44. But that's another topic. God, I hope Mrs. Tactical doesn't watch this video. Anyway, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments section. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Tactical. Dr. Tactical, out.